So that person, what do you tell them to put the focus on? Writing new material or building an audience?
Well, you should always be writing new material.
So you tell them to put the focus on that. So then technically your answer for this question would be writing new material.
No, because we're talking about what's the biggest challenge.
It's never been easier to build an audience, but because it's never been easier, it is also never been harder because there's everybody you're competing with now. Yeah, are you building an audience based off material that you want to tell, or are you now doing stuff that you know the algorithm will pump out to a wider audience?
Which is building an audience, but
and watering down
for stand-up comedy. You should, I'm saying, ideally you should be writing new material, right? But like you're saying, there are people that don't.
But that's not but this isn't a question of what's ideally. This is what's the most challenging aspect.
But that's why I said.
Another regular segment we do here called Poll Results. If you are new to the podcast, welcome. If you're returning, welcome back, beautiful people. You too can be beautiful people. All you have to do is hit that subscribe, hit the like button, leave a comment, help us fight Mr. Algorithm. But on my Instagram story feed every Monday morning and on the community tab on YouTube around midday on Mondays, we post an interactive poll question about comedy. We let you guys vote, and then we come here week to week and we discuss the results. All right? Very simple. If you want to get in on that, aka Black Zeus on Instagram, or right here is the place to be, YouTube community tab. Check back every Monday. We have the last week's poll video plus a new poll question. So this week's poll question is, what's the biggest challenge for a stand-up comedian? And the options were writing new material, performing live, handling hecklers, or building an audience. And before we get to the results, how did you vote on this one?
I would think building an audience is probably the hardest thing to do.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Biggest challenge. Because
like for this day.
Yeah.
Or
like,
maybe at all times.
I think all times because, I mean, at least you should be writing new material regularly. You can't build an audience if you're not performing live.
You know what though, man? Like you're around me, you're around other comics who are consistently writing, and you're seeing people do. But
I know, but that's
the majority of comics are not writing new material.
I understand that, but they also don't have an audience because then their audience will be like, "Hey, I saw this."
So then, what do you tell them to put the focus on? Building an audience or actually having material?
Who?
That person. Hypothetical.
That person. That
What? So like you just said. The person that is usually not writing new material, you're noticing, is also not really having a big audience.
Yeah.
So that person, what do you tell them to put the focus on? Writing new material or building an audience?
Well, you should always be writing new material.
So you tell them to put the focus on that. So then technically your answer for this question would be writing new material.
No, because we're talking about what's the biggest challenge.
That
it's not a challenge to write new material.
But yes, it is. We're talking about a person who doesn't. We're talking about a person who doesn't write new material.
Yes,
and you said they don't have big followings.
So then, but if they
have
a comic that doesn't perform live, I just record. I'm just an internet comedian. I don't actually.
Yeah, but what's the most challenging part of it? I don't think writing new material is that easy.
It's not easy, but it's not as hard as building an audience.
No, that is. I still agree that is the hardest part. Handling over time. I mean, if you're talking to a new comic, they might even say handling hecklers. You know what I mean? Like if you're talking to someone, but like the longer you stay in it, like that becomes second nature.
Yeah, I've seen people build an audience off handling hecklers.
Yeah, I've seen that too. Yeah, I mean, I do agree. It is building an audience. Especially this day and age, which is so funny because it's never been easier to build an audience. But because it's never been easier, it is also never been harder because there's everybody you're competing with now. Yeah. Before it was curated and you had to like at least have some level of talent and be in it enough for someone who had access to the publications or whatever, you know, the machine to plug you in. Now you can just create a machine in your basement. Yeah. And
well, then I guess because
doesn't that make it less challenging?
Well, yeah, because if you wanted to, you could BS it and you could build a BS audience, but you still built an audience.
It's still difficult though. Like, sure, you can BS it, but again, we can't downplay the fact that you're competing with 1 billion people.
I know, but
so
like
you still
saying,
have to.
It's technically technically, it's easier to build an audience. But is it a comedy audience? Are you just building a random audience? Is it an audience that's even going to come to your shows?
Is it an audience? Yeah, are you building an audience based off material that you want to tell, or are you now doing stuff that you know the algorithm will pump out to a wider audience?
Which is building an audience, but
and watering down
for stand-up comedy.
Correct.
Right?
But it's still, so then that actually adds another layer of difficulty to building an audience, which is what you see me struggling with here. It's like, I'm not a dinosaur, but I don't.
Kind of a dinosaur.
Like, I'm just.
Well, there's like dinosaurs, and then you're like woolly mammoth era.
No, because I like technology, but I don't.
No, but you forget that's when Atlantis was. So.
Oh, hilarious! Oh, I see what you're saying there. Like, you're hilarious. Just in terms, of. Like, that's why I kind of switched route with the whole online villain and all that stuff. Because I am not trying to be interpreted as a guy who's, get off my lawn and this new age, newfangled technology and all that stuff. It's like, no, that's not it. It's the social engineering behind it that I don't agree with. It is the subtle twisting of the arm. Okay, nobody is forcing anybody to produce a certain type of content, but it's very obvious that these platforms are pushing certain types of content. So it doesn't take somebody to walk up to you with a gun and be like, you're going to make stupid memes. But if you're trying to get wider audience and you see that the people that are getting wider audience are the ones making stupid memes, what does that tell you? I guess I got to make stupid memes, or let me focus more time on trying to, which is what, like, you know, like, how do we, I'm like, bro, F that, man. Like, F that. So that to me, it's still, that layer is even harder now. Because I would say building an audience is one of the easiest things, had I actually, especially over the years now, with some of the sketch ideas that I've had and just randomly dropped here and there, but not been consistent with. God knows, had I been consistent with any of this stuff. And then people would be like, yo, you're the impression guy. Do an impression. And I'm out there trying to do my actual material, but like, now I've catered, I need the audience. So I'm holding steadfast on building an audience. You too?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because
it's kind of sounded like you were going to material there for a second.
No,
I was switching.
No, I was saying I'm saying ideally you should be writing new material. Right? But like you're saying, there are people that don't.
But that's not but this isn't a question of what's ideally. This is what's the most challenging aspect.
But that's why I said building an audience.
Fair enough. Now we're arguing even though we agree.
Yeah, exactly.
That happens to us a lot. And I'll take the blame on like 60% of that. 65, 75. I just keep upping it.
85, but one phone call.
So once again, this week's poll question: what's the biggest challenge for a stand-up comedian? And the options were writing new material, performing live, handling hecklers, or building an audience. And the Instagram results were 27% writing material, 0 performing, 8% handling hecklers, 65% building an audience. People know, man, in this social media day and age, I'm glad people at least recognize that, okay, yeah, everybody has access, but it's because everybody has access that it's that much harder now.
Everyone has access? No one has access.
Bingo. That's the greatest way to neutralize art. Let's look at the YouTube poll results real quick before we get out of here. All right. Once again, you can also vote every Monday on the community tab. Scroll down. There we go. And 30% said writing new material. 30% said performing live. 0% said dealing with hecklers over here. And 40% went building an audience. So it was a little more evened out on YouTube. It's funny to see 0% go to dealing with hecklers on this one.
Yeah, but I think like one person voted on that last time in the Instagram. This is like a small percentage.
Fair enough. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
8%.
Yeah, 8% of it's like 1 or 2 people. That's this week's poll questions. Ladies and gentlemen, definitely get in on that. This is Black Zeus, the podcast season 5. I love y'all. Thank you for supporting. Once again, the Patreon is launched. If you do want to watch my comedy special right now, you can do so. It's only $10 and you can get it as part of the subscription fee. So like if you subscribe to the Patreon, you can get it that way, or you can just buy it outright for $10 that way. Once again, for transparency, I will release the comedy special for free on the YouTube once we hit 1,000 subscribers. So you can also just hit the subscriber button and just do that. You can support that way, whichever way you want to support. I'm on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, all that. I don't necessarily use it the way everybody else does, but I'm there if you want to find me. AKA Black Zeus is the person to find on those platforms.